Welcome to Love Practice Progress. My name is Anjelis, and I am your co-host.
My name is Andrea. I'm your other co-host.
And we're so excited to bring and launch Love Practice Progress. This has been in the works for a while.
It has.
And really looking forward to providing our listeners with value and with practical strategies in order to really transform their lives.
And I know that that is a continuous journey. And that is something that our viewers will enjoy to hear about. Why Love Practice Progress? What is the premise of the title?
So Love Practice Progress came from my work, my personal growth, and my work with Rising Star Wellness. This podcast is part of Rising Star Wellness, which is our coaching and weight loss practice where we help people transform their lives with or without GLP-1. However, Rising Star Wellness was created after my personal transformation. And that is where I learned about loving yourself to health, progress, not perfection. And that was inspired the name, Love Practice Progress.
How long has Rising Star Wellness been in existence?
Yeah, so Rising Star Wellness was founded in the summer of 2023. And that was after I completed a wellness coach certification. Now, a little bit of history on that. I am a registered nurse, and I've been a registered nurse for over 20 years. So I've been in healthcare for a long time. Interestingly enough, I was quite unhealthy and didn't prioritize my health and didn't take care of myself. So, after having some medical concerns and issues, and my son actually having some medical issues as well, it all lined up. And, looking back, things happen when you're ready in a way to receive them. During that time in November of 2022, I decided that I wanted to do something different in terms of helping people in their health, right?
All right.
So as a nurse, and my role was to help people during their disease, where I wanted to move into a space of more wellness and preventative medicine. So I went ahead and purchased this wellness coaching certification, which was quite ironic because at that time I was 278 pounds and unhealthy, quite unhealthy myself. I had already had suffered from a stroke and had multiple surgeries for weight loss, actually.
Okay.
In 2015, I had bariatric surgery. I was at 280 pounds then, lost the weight, only about 50, not only, because that is...
I would say that's significant. Like, give yourself credit, right? The progress of losing 50 pounds after weight loss surgery. And sometimes people don't realize the surgery is just the key to unlock the door. You still have to walk through. You still have to do the extra work. You still have to, eat well and still take care of yourself. And that is overall a mindset shift.
It was a pivotal moment in my life. It was a moment where I was in the hospital with my son. We were in and out of the hospital after he had a brain tumor removed. And I was really scared. I was scared that what his needs were going to be and if I was able to care for him. So initially, although one of the foundations for Rising Star Wellness and this podcast is Love Yourself to Health, I did it out of love for him.
That is awesome.
Understanding that I needed to care for myself in order to be able to care for him. So during that time, instead of doom scrolling, which is what I was doing at that moment, I was like, you know what? I bought this program. I made an investment. Let me go ahead and take the time and use the time to do that. And I did. And let me tell you, initially, how am I going to be a wellness coach when, my health has opportunity in areas that I needed to work on. And little did I know that what I was learning and putting into practice was going to transform my life. So fast forward, I, went ahead and did the wellness coaching certification. And at that time, also decided to start my wellness journey. December of 2022, I was 278 pounds. And I started with small steps and just implementing the things and the strategies that I was learning, and doing the work, doing the mindset work, and becoming the person that effortlessly not only loses weight, but maintains a healthy weight. And one of the biggest mistakes that people make, and that I made myself early on in my life, is that you focus on the outcome. You focus on, I want to lose.
Like, I want to lose this much weight. I want to look this way. I want to fit into this dress, which is all great things. But I'm going to say how we're going to run into the practice, right? Practice, the time of really understanding your mindset, understanding how you need to adjust for yourself, and then the progress part. So I'm going to say that's the progress as we go through it.
Absolutely. It does take being intentional about showing up every day and becoming the person that achieves the results that you're looking for. And I know that sometimes it took me some time to understand that. I would, listen to it and I'm like, what do you mean become the person that I am working on becoming? If I was that person, then what do you mean? I wouldn't be having these struggles with my weight if I was the person that, maintained a healthy weight. Mm-hmm. Not understanding at that time that what it refers to is practicing becoming that person and making choices that the person that you're becoming, your version 2.0, or the person that you're working to become in the next season of your life, making the choices they would make. And that takes practice over perfection. And that's definitely the other part of the foundation to this podcast, but also Rising Star Wellness, is that we choose progress over perfection.
Okay.
Right? Progress, not perfection. Because at the end of the day, consistency and showing up for yourself and making the choices that align and that move you forward towards your goal is really going to compound over time. But it takes practice.
And believing that you are the person that is changing, believing that you are making, I think you've taught me this, like even 1% better every day.
Yeah, and that comes from Atomic Habits from James Clear, which is an amazing book that I used and read during my journey and put in practice some of the strategies that he talks about. But it is about, are we moving towards the person that we're becoming? And the person that we're becoming achieves the results that we're looking for. Mm-hmm. And it's like a bank account, right? Every day you put in $1 and over time that compounds. So every small decision that you make that supports the person that you're becoming, it's a vote towards this identity that you're working towards, and it builds your self-trust.
Okay.
Right? So every small decision over time compounds and builds your self-trust. And sometimes when people quit on health or career or school is because they don't really trust that they're going to reach their goal and are at times in this all or nothing mentality.
You can't have that. Becoming your version 2.0, as you said, you have to have a level of trust in what you're doing. You'll be successful. You will be able to practice these new habits and, of course, progress, right? So love, practice, progress. Love yourself to health, practice these changes, and then progress to wherever you're hoping to become.
Well, hope is not a strategy,
Oi.
right?
Guys, when I tell you, I did not understand that phrase until I heard it in a setting that it really made sense, because in healthcare, right, myself as well in healthcare, you can't hope for the person to get better if you're not doing something. You can't just stand there and say, oh, I hope you get better. I hope things happen, without saying, like, you physically have to do something, physically have to move forward in order for that to actually happen for yourself, for your patient. So you're right. Hope is not a strategy. And sometimes that's hard to hear. It is hard to hear because we use that word. I used to use that word tremendously. Like, oh, I hope I get a good grade. I hope I get to my destination. I hope. And it was really helped change my mindset to say, hope is not a strategy. You push to do it and do it.
100%. And, another hard pill to swallow is that it does require change. It requires for us to change our lifestyle, change our habits to support the goal that we are working towards. Because if nothing changes, nothing changes, right? And the beautiful thing about it is understanding that where you are today is 100% your responsibility. And the beautiful thing about that is the word itself, responsibility, means ability to respond, which means that, and translates into, we are where we are today based on our choices, and we can change our circumstances by making different choices. Now, that being said, I understand that. And please understand that it does not need to be a complete overhaul.
No. Oh, goodness.
Right?
The overhaul can cause it can cause a lot of things, which can be just an overload, right? And as you had mentioned previously, that people give up in their process, in their progress, with lack of trust. However, using the overhaul process is another way that you end up losing trust. You want to lose weight, or you're in the process of losing weight and becoming the person who goes to the gym, or becoming the person who eats vegetables, because vegetables are not always tasty. But you're not going to all of a sudden go from eating rice plus beans plus meat to a whole plate of salad all the time, every day, in a huge overhaul. You may say, okay, for today, I'm going to add the vegetables to my meal. And this is how you become the person who now incorporates vegetables.
That is really interesting. But eating vegetables is not a prerequisite of weight loss. And that right there is a misconception.
Okay.
And that right there, we get into, in order for me to lose weight, I need to eat vegetables.
Eat like a rabbit.
No, ma'am. I do not eat like a rabbit, even during my weight loss journey.
Okay.
What I did was understand what a calorie deficit was, maintained a calorie deficit while I can eat as much as possible. So it's not about I didn't eat any less. I made swaps so that my calorie bank account can be stretched as much as possible.
Stretching that bank account. Sometimes that is a feat to practice in itself.
So it's thinking about it that way. So that right there, I invite you to reframe that thought and that belief that in order to lose weight, you must eat vegetables. Now, are vegetables typically, depending on the vegetable, typically high volume, low calorie food? Yes. I can agree.
Yes.
I can agree with that. And it's very much how you prepare it.
Yeah, you can't cover it in honey, hot honey, and saute it in butter.
You can, but wait a minute. See, you can if you measure it.
Okay.
Just like you can go swipe your credit card if you're willing to spend the money that you're swiping for, and you got the money in your bank account. There's no credit with calories. So
I'm following.
those are the types of beliefs that people themselves block or are afraid to start, because in their minds, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to have to give up all the foods that I love in order to lose fat. And that's not the case. You would just need to budget and be able to make swaps. So if you have $1,500 in your account, you can either choose to go buy one item for $1,500, or you can choose to spread it out and get the most you can. It really just depends what it is, what your goal is. And then understanding that our calories, it's a deficit that we create over time. So it's really interesting, and that's part of when we provide coaching, is people really to help people understand and help our clients and patients understand what is a calorie deficit, and the way that our bodies use and lose fat. Because it can be very confusing, right?
That is true.
Rice and beans are not the problem.
How much you eat
Potentially.
could be so is the problem. Could be.
And then understanding that not all calories are created the same, right? You have, protein, which is quite important.
Correct.
To maintain muscle. And then, you have your other macros. But it's understanding that the goal at the end of the day is to lose fat while nourishing your body.
Okay.
It's not extremes. It's not starvation. Going back to the overhaul, people, have a tendency, and we as humans have a tendency of, you know what, I'll just go ahead and start on Monday. And we're going to start a diet on Monday. Well, guess what? Diets are temporary. The mindset and the behaviors behind a diet are temporary. So what we are achieving and what really maintains long-term results is a lifestyle change. Really, what we're doing is that we're transforming our life. But it's so important. And this is where, for me, everything changed, was the love. Love yourself to health. And that is something that really carried me through my journey. So going back to the beginning, I have struggled with weight and being overweight for my entire life. Right? Ever since I can remember, I was overweight. And throughout my journey and throughout my life, I did extremes to lose weight. So in my early 20s, I went on a very restrictive diet, exercised for, an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, and, essentially lost 60 pounds in 3 months. But I did it in an unhealthy way, which had health consequences at my early age of my early 20s. But most importantly was the motivation or the feeling behind the change and behind what I was doing. It was self-loathing. It was from a true dislike of who I was and what I looked like. And it took having a lap band, having it removed, gastric surgery, losing weight, regaining all the weight, because all of that, to no surprise, were Band-Aids and using tools without the work of the mindset. So during this transformation as a wellness coach, I learned that it all comes down to your mindset. And this is true for whatever it is we're trying to achieve, is building that self-trust that these results are possible, working on your identity, and really finding your powerful why.
Powerful why. I know you've mentioned previously on how that's important to really dig deep and find your why and why you're doing it. Because as you just mentioned, your initial process of losing weight didn't come from that place of love. So when you would ask yourself why, it's like, oh, I hate my body. Why? Oh, I don't like the way I look. Why? Because I want to fit into these pants or this shirt. Didn't really go into like the depth of, once you did start to love yourself and really love yourself to health, those whys started to shift, right?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
Right? When I first started, my motivation wasn't love for myself. It was love for my son.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay until I learned to love myself and respect the body, the only body I have and will have. It didn't start with self-love, but it grew into it as I did the work, as I practiced the reframing, as I practiced identifying my beliefs and identifying which beliefs helped me move forward and which beliefs did not. It takes work and it's exhausting, but so worth it. And when you understand what your why is, initially my why was because I wanted to make sure that I was available, meaning health-wise, to help my son. But as I went through the program, as I did the activities, as I dug deep, it was a very intentional process to go down 5, 6 layers, 7 layers deep to my why. And it came down to that I wanted to live long enough to see my kids grow, to see my grandchildren grow up, because it was important to me.
That makes sense.
And through these activities, I was able to identify the why and really grow that love for myself through daily actions that build the self-trust. If you continue showing up, even imperfectly, there is no way that you are not going to be successful. And that is really what it's about. Sometimes we quit because we're like, you know what, forget it. I already broke my quote unquote diet or quote unquote had bad food. So why continue?
That happens more often than it should. That's that start over Monday thought pattern. You know, you've already messed up. You already ate what you weren't supposed to eat. I'll restart on Monday.
Exactly. Just start your next choice, your next meal. Just get back on track. There's no need to keep restarting when we just reset.
That's how we should look at it, right? A reset versus a restart. Rising Star Wellness is very much about the reset, about taking what has happened, looking at what has happened and process yourself, moving forward, having the mindset to understand this is version 1.0, it's a version 2.0, and who you're becoming. And it possibly is just a reset.
It is just a reset because you have the ability to choose differently your next meal. You don't need to wait till Monday. That starting over Monday and I've already had bad food, so just forget it for the rest of the day. And then that turns into the weekend and that turns into the following week. And then that turns into years.
Weight gain, bad habits don't just appear out of once or twice. It's a consistent choice as you go through, consistent choice, as you said, you know, eating the bad food or picking up a habit that I'm just going to, try it or eat it once. And then it now becomes your meal often.
Still a choice.
Still a choice.
One shift that I was able to make is moving away from good and bad. Still good and bad. There's nutrition and there's food that fit into your budget or food that doesn't fit into your budget. And there's food that has more nourishment and there's food that has less nourishment.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it's food that serves you and your goal or food that doesn't. Perfection is not the goal. It's consistency. And that's why understanding and knowing what your powerful why is so important, because motivation, if one thing I'm going to tell you is that motivation is going to run out.
Really?
100%.
Okay. Elaborate on that.
So we all get started and, not all, but, when you start a new process, you're like, yeah, let's go. I'm motivated. I am going to, eat my meals as planned. I am going to go to the gym. I am going to go for a walk. And then life happens.
And life is lifing sometimes. I see what you say. Motivation is one of those things that it's there for a period of time. And does it serve you for that moment?
Well, it serves you to get started, but then something else takes over, which is the systems that you put in place in order to move towards your goal. And it's about systems. When we rely on motivation, that evaporates with time. But when we put systems into place that support our goal, that is where self-trust is built. That is where consistency is built. And that is where we make small changes over time. Because what happens when we do the overhaul and try to overhaul our entire lifestyle, that's when it becomes overwhelming and then people quit. And that's the one for sure way to guarantee that you're not going to get the results that you're looking for.
That is true.
But if you do it anyway, if you do it tired, if you do it afraid, and you do it anyway, and you make one small step, one small decision, sometimes it's one decision at a time, then you will be successful. Is it going to take time? Absolutely. I didn't get to 280 pounds overnight. It took many choices to get to 280 pounds. As it's going to take an accumulation of many choices for me to get to whatever your goal weight is. But you can't be the same person that you were at 280 that you are at your goal weight, because the lifestyles don't match.
They don't. And of course, that takes the practice, and that takes the progress and continued progress and continued practice and continued mindset shift. And I believe that's the one thing that is the biggest portion of what we're trying to say, is the mindset shift is an absolute must. Like, I know that's a strong word, but it's an absolute must in order for you to really live loving yourself to health, practice not perfection, and keeping the progress going forward.
Building a system and aligning your mindset and your beliefs with the person that you're becoming is what is going to support your long-term results. You can't be the same person you were in your version 1.0 when you get to your version 2.0. Most of us know what to do. Most of us know the things that are going to help us improve our health. But there's a big gap between knowing and doing. And action and taking consistent action is what is going to get us to our version 2.0, to that person that we're becoming. And it's going to be uncomfortable. And it's learning how to sit in your discomfort, learning that the ideas and concepts around this specific idea of weight loss is quite simple, but it's not easy.
It's not.
It's not easy to apply them consistently unless, again, we build a system that supports the person that we're becoming. And you use the tools available to you, you put in the work, and you do it from a place of love. Because the truth of the matter is, sometimes we can be quite cruel to ourselves.
There's so much truth in that. And you do have to give yourself grace as you go through your whole progress and through your process, and really understanding kind of where you are. Give yourself grace that the changes that you've chosen to make are helping you get to becoming the person that you intend on being.
We want to focus on small, consistent changes. And I was the type that I was like, well, what is it going to matter if today I walk 100 extra steps. What is it going to matter if today I, prioritize protein? What is it going to matter if today I just do my minimum daily action? But those are all building blocks.
Okay.
And it is less about what you're doing, but the fact that you are keeping the promise to yourself and building the self-trust. And when that self-trust comes the confidence that as long as you keep showing up, you will achieve your goals.
And it's not a destination.
It's a journey.
I love it.
Fall in love with the journey. Fall in love with yourself. Have grace and empathy towards you. Be really intentional about the internal dialogue and how you speak to yourself. And if you wouldn't, whatever you're saying to yourself, if you wouldn't say it to someone that you love, then you shouldn't be saying it to yourself. We can change that and apply the same kindness and grace and love that you would do towards other people.
That is true. And you look at it through a different lens. Words have meaning, and words can adjust and change how you look at yourself, how you look at the world, how you look at your progress, and how you love yourself. That words are much more powerful than you may have even really realized. And that is part of the whole mindset shift, that you really speak to yourself in kindness, speak to yourself in grace. That small change you made, give yourself grace on how that is going to change how you feel today, how your pants may fit in a few days, how you made someone feel. Like, the words are strong. Words are very important.
And the way you speak and what you put out to the world and the way you speak to yourself comes from your beliefs. Your beliefs shape your behavior. They shape your vocabulary, and they absolutely drive your patterns and your habits. One thing for me, it took me a while to learn, is that unfortunately, I grew up in an environment where being overweight was equated with no one's going to love you.
Ouch. That is not love.
Understanding that people and the people that raised us and our parents are also doing the best they can. And their actions are also driven by their beliefs and their trauma.
Definitely.
Right? That was just the reality.
Exactly.
And it took me going through this process. It took me really working through and understanding what my belief systems were and actively reframing them to empowering. So for a long time, right, because I was overweight, unconsciously, my beliefs were that I didn't deserve love or I wasn't loved. And that drove my behaviors. It turns into this self-fulfilling prophecy.
And that's not a great self-fulfilling prophecy.
It was not. And it didn't serve me for a long time. It didn't serve me ever, but I didn't care. I carried it for a long time, and it drove my habits.
And how you looked at yourself.
Yeah.
Overall.
And through this process and understanding what my beliefs were, I realized that, love comes from a lot more than your exterior.
It does. It starts with interior, though, I believe.
I think in order for you to receive love, you need, I learned, it is my perspective, that you need to have love in you. And I didn't understand that for a while. And I'm like, of course I love myself. But then my behaviors
didn't
were
mimic
destructive.
Okay.
So it didn't align.
With what you were saying.
Exactly.
That is something that everyone can work on. Everyone can work on, everyone can continue to grow in that process. Give yourself grace on really realizing what self-love is and the choices you make daily, the choices that you make throughout your life. If nothing changes, nothing changes. And that is, self-love at its best. You sit there and say, I dislike how I'm feeling. I'm overweight. Okay. You ultimately make the decision to change that if that's really how you feel. However, still talk to yourself in a loving way. Do the best you can at talking to yourself in a loving way and understand that things may need to change in order for that to be different if you don't like the weight that you're at.
If nothing changes, nothing changes. Love, practice, progress. It's exactly what it represents.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with love, and through practice, you will absolutely see progress.
I love it.
That's it for today. Thank you for joining us. Remember to love yourself to health.
Practice, not perfection.
And we'll see you next time.